in the winter, it doesn't ever freeze. It just rains. It gets like 32 degrees or like maybe 33, right above freezing. It just rains all the time. It floods your shoes. I mean, it's always above your ankle, so your shoes are always soaked. And that's it. You're just wading through water all day in the winter. Most everything that I packed for that was on the missionary list was used. I definitely used most of it. There are a couple things I didn't. Big boots that were like made for snow I didn't ever use because I never saw snow. But I mean, you definitely want all the white shirts you can because in the summer you're going to be sweating through all of them. I knew missionaries that wore 2 a day. Plenty of garments because you're going to go through a lot of them, and as much walking as you're going to be doing, they're going to be tearing holes through them really fast. So you're going to want to replace them. Umbrellas, I wouldn't say are a huge thing to bring because you can buy umbrellas there on any corner for $2. If you buy a nice umbrella here, it's going to last for 3 months, and you're going to have to replace it because it's going to break because when it's raining, it's also windy, it's going to break. Or you can buy slightly cheaper quality there, which will last 2 months instead of 3 for $2 instead of 15 or 30. You're going to replace it anyway. So I wouldn't really mind bringing that. The greatest thing I learned was don't beat around the bush. If something's bothering you, or if some people, when people are doing something stupid, they don't realize it's dumb or not supposed to be happening. So, I mean, some people you can hope they realize it on their own, but really you need to, if they're messing up and you know it, you need to let them know. I think that's what I learned. You tell them because then they know it's bad or it's bothering you or something, and they'll change it a lot faster or realize that it is bad. So I think that main thing was don't beat around the bush, and you just got to tell them and make sure to tell them with love, and they'll realize what's happening and hope that they'll do the same for you because you're gonna mess up too. This doesn't happen every day. When I was being trained, I was with my trainer, and he was a more mildly mannered guy. Where I've never had the best patience, I guess, when it comes to stuff. So we were trying to walk home, and these boys that I don't know if they were under the influence or anything, but they just weren't acting normal, and we could kind of tell something was bad going to happen because we're walking on that street, and we could see them talking and yelling at us one way off, but there was no other way to go around. So we went home, and I was a couple weeks in the mission, so I was just not understanding everything that was happening, but I could see my trainer getting madder and madder. But he was just really trying to pull me through it. And it was an interesting experience because this boy ended up grabbing him and jumping around with him into the street, and I'm a little green, I don't know what to do. I'm bigger, I was much bigger than they were, but I didn't know what to do because I was still new. So I yelled, "Stop!" He looked at me and he pulled out this knife. And this doesn't happen every day. This is the only really time I saw it. But he pulled out this knife, and I was like, oh man, like I don't want to fight someone with a knife. So he walked towards me, and I don't know what I was thinking, but I really wanted to push him down. I really wanted to push him down because I knew I could have. I could have knocked him off his feet. But instead of I was walking towards him, and something stopped me, and I just turned, grabbed my companion, and pulled him from the guy's grasp, and we just walked away. So, and I don't know, it's because in the next week we started going home a different way. And the next week, these guys, I don't know if they followed us or they moved and they just saw us, but the same guy saw us again, and I don't know if he didn't have his knife on him, but he grabbed my companion, but I didn't freeze this time. I grabbed his hand and just shoved the guy really hard to the ground, and I just grabbed my companion and we walked off again. Never saw the guys again, but I think that was there's a lot more experiences, but that was the first one that came to mind. I was in fear. So when these tunes get together, these boys get together, they are super nice and 1 or 2s, but when they get in front of their friends, even here in America, we try to show off, in front of our friends. And I think that's kind of what they're trying to do. But we were going to get our bread in this kind of alleyway, but that's just where the best bread place was. And we walked on this corner, and I just smelled drugs. I just smelled it, and I was like, well, this is not good. And I walked on this corner, and I saw 7 or 8 or 9 boys that are like 16 or 17 years old. And I was like, crap. And I looked at my pen and I was like, just walk straight through them. Don't look at them. Don't talk to them. We're just going to go. And I think he could understand what they're saying. I don't know if he could totally understand. They're yelling vulgar stuff at us, and I was getting mad, but I was like, just wait, you get out of here, just do it. We're gonna be safer that way. And I think this was probably the most mad I've ever been on my mission, because I hear these rocks that are being thrown at us, but none are hitting us. So I'm like, that's fine. Like, it's upsetting, but that's fine. I'm not being hit. And I think if they would have hit me, I would have been mad, but I would have walked away. But I heard it hit my companion. And when I heard it hit him, I turned around and just started charging this boy. I just got so angry. I just ran right up to him, and my companion is just yelling, and finally grabs me right before I get to him, and we turn around and we go to this bread store, and I didn't realize what kind of trouble we were in, because there were like 7 of them, and there were only 2 of us. Even when we're bigger, there's still 7 of them. Could have been in a lot of trouble, but when I heard it hit my companion, I just didn't even think about it. I saw red, and he says I hoped out almost, because I was about to, because I still get mad when I really think if it would hit me, I'd have been fine, but it hit my companion, and I was like, that's not acceptable. I just got so mad. I think there were a lot of experiences that I didn't realize that it was the Spirit happening until after it happened, almost. Does that make sense? The coolest experience that I can share right now, that I feel comfortable sharing, is I was zone leader in Tirana in 3rd Branch, and like I said, we had big stories. So when you went tracting, so they had big stories, but they had like rows of them. So when you went tracting, you just went to the end of one row, you started the top, went down, just went your way, just made it, just systematically did it. So me and my companion were talking, and incidentally enough, the couple weeks before, we had this investigator that we knew wasn't going anywhere, but he was our only investigator. He was the only one that would meet with us, and we knew he only wanted to get to America. But we had a good study session a couple days before, and we just said, you know what, we need to have faith. We need to drop him because he's not going anywhere, and work. That's what we need to do. We should have the faith. And so we dropped him the day before. And we were just so the next day we planned that night, and we were like, we got 14 hours of tracking, man. That's what our day is going to be. So we tracked him for a couple times. We had lunch, and we were going our second session of tracking. So we were about to start this new complex. We were walking down this way to the end of the road to get to the end of the apartment complex. And I don't know what happened, but both of us were walking in the middle of the complex. This never happens. Both of us just turned and walked straight in. And we've talked about many times about how weird it was, because we'd never been here before. We just turned, just both at the same time, didn't say a word to each other. We just stopped talking, turned, walked up to this door. First door we knocked on, this man opened up to us, and awesome gentleman looking for something in his life, and he found it. I think that was the coolest thing when I realized the next couple of weeks that how weird it was, because we ended up tracking the rest of that complex and no one else opened the door. But I don't know if he needed it that time or what, but the fact that both of us turned at the same time, we knew it wasn't us. The Spirit was telling us to do it, and I'm glad our hearts listened, because it sure worked. I think that was the coolest experience by far. One time when I was actually in Fier. I was still newer in the mission. I was learning how to say stuff, and I heard this phrase a lot. And then so when they say, "Are you cold?" they say, "Do you have cold?" And so it was like a chilly day, but it wasn't amazing. When I was in church, and one of my good buddies from not in the mission, that branch came in, and I went up to talk to him. And I was like, "Okay, trying to ask." Man, are you cold? Because he had this giant coat on, and it was only kind of chilly outside, but this massive coat. And he just busted up laughing, because I tried to say, "Do you have a keftot?" Ask him if he's cold, but I added a ta in between the ftot. So instead of a keftot, I said a tuftot, which I asked him if okay, how do I say this? I asked him if his male genitalia was working. So just that one little thing changed and went from "Are you cold?" to Are you okay down there? I didn't ever say this, but I heard a missionary say this. And I could not hold it in. We were having a prayer. He had been in the mission for like 3 or 4 weeks. Really not his fault. So the word pa means without, and pache means peace. Another form of che is a very offensive word. It's kind of our version of the F word is really what it is. So this missionary, we just had luckily he was with some members who understood he was new, and he was trying to give this wonderful prayer, and most of the prayer was really great. And he said in the prayer, he was trying to say, can we go home with peace, with me pace, but he accidentally said the other form of chi, and he ended up saying, may we go home without that word. I lost it. I had to like plug my nose, bite my finger, and I buried my head in my lap. And luckily he was almost done because he said amen, and I lost it. And the members there taught him what was wrong. And oh man, that was really funny. when you hear that, because that's a huge difference. And oh man, I think a lot of the language barriers is you always have to learn the bad words, because you have to learn what not to say, because there's really similar words that you're going to use every day, and you have to know the difference. So it's almost like you have to learn the vulgar words to make sure you don't say them. Because if you don't, it'll happen.